Hey everyone, XERIC Sports Advisory checking in with a topic we feel is important for clubs, players, and agents alike. If you are even remotely familiar with the business side of U.S. soccer, primarily Major League Soccer and the USL, then you know how far different it is from other leagues around the world. Even local agents can find it incredibly confusing if you don't truly understand the rules and regulations of the local leagues. That's why we're here. We're here to help and bring you this video. The USA has reformed markets, both MLS and USL now. No longer are we focused on bringing in older names, but rather younger talent to develop and move on to bigger, larger leagues in the future. MLS executives will tell you how important it is to work with agents and other clubs that understand the 3 R's of the league: roster, rules, and regulations. And we hope that we can share our experience and expertise to help you also navigate these waters of the MLS. Over the past several years, many clubs and agents have entrusted us to help them understand the MLS better, the rules and the regulations. We've helped with negotiating contracts. Basically, this is an area that we understand very well, both on the theoretical side, but also on the practical side. We've been deep on these issues in real life situations. In this video, I will introduce you to some of the more confusing concepts of Major League Soccer and what makes it such a unique market. So, let's get started. Let's begin with the did you know. Did you know that all the clubs in Major League Soccer are all owned by one entity? And that's Major League Soccer. It makes things from ticket sales to player contracts to negotiations all fall under one umbrella regardless of the team you're working with. On a club level, all MLS teams are tied to a budget, or rather salary cap. This means that there's only a finite amount of money to go across all players. This is far different from your European counterparts. I've heard it time and time again from other agents, oh, we're unhappy with the amount of money our players are getting, but the truth is there's only so much money to get spread around. And that's why we want to help other agents and help other players, help other clubs understand how exactly they can best negotiate a contract for their players under the MLS guidelines. All right, well, we focus on several areas with our clients. And let's begin with MLS roster management. And that includes the senior roster, understanding the difference between the supplemental roster, as well as the reserve roster. These are all areas that contribute to both the current and future success of the team and is managed differently in terms of budget and player development. So, the next area of focus with our clients is player acquisition mechanisms. And this includes everything from designated players, discovery players, foreign players, domestic players, homegrowns, super draft players, generation Adidas players, allocation procedures. There's so many areas that you can focus on. And I'll touch on one right now, discovery players. All right, well, let's take a look at the example of a discovery player. So let's say you're an agent, you have a great player, he's a young kid, this is South America, Central America, and you're ready to move him to the MLS under the guidelines that fit the certain acquisition cost. Well, not so fast. What could be the case is that this player falls on what's called a discovery list of another club in the MLS. That gives that club the rights to sign this player, or rather first rights of refusal. Now, if Club B, a different club, has interest in this discovery player, they will have to pay roughly $50,000 of what's called general allocation money for the rights to sign this player. And we'll touch soon on allocation money and its effect on Major League Soccer. The next popular topic are budget mechanisms, and this includes roster budget and allocation monies. Allocation monies are general allocation money, as previously mentioned, and targeted allocation money, respectively GAM and TAM. So let's look at allocation money, one of my favorite topics and could be possibly the most misunderstood concept in all of US sports, not just soccer. So before we get into the difference of what GAM is and what TAM is, let's take a look at what allocation money itself is. Allocation money is an MLS currency used to give to teams to help on player signings and to negotiate contracts and to better develop the league. This has become such a significant part of the league that the two have even developed almost their own type of currency exchange rate. Let's take a look at general allocation money, or rather GAM. Every MLS club has a certain amount of GAM that they can spend every year in 4 distinct areas. First is signing new players from outside the MLS, re-signing existing players in the MLS, offsetting acquisition costs, and lastly, knocking down a budget charge of a designated player. Now let's take a look at targeted allocation money, or rather TAM. And there's one primary use in the MLS for TAM at the moment, and that's to buy down salaries of players below the designated player threshold, which at this point is roughly $500,000. And you might ask, what is a designated player? Well, this is exactly that. It's 3 players per roster, that maximum, that can earn over $500,000 roughly per year in the MLS. You can only have 3 per roster, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a great example of what happens when you want to sign a 4th player. You have targeted allocation money and you want to put this player on your roster. Now let's take a look at his example. All right, everybody's favorite Swedish player, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So, he wanted to come to the MLS and conquer the MLS like he has other leagues around the world. Well, this is a little bit problematic for the LA Galaxy. Why? Because they already had 3 designated players on their roster. Well, how could they fit Zlatan Ibrahimovic on their roster? Well, they could do that by using targeted allocation money, as I just introduced, to buy down his salary below $500,000. So what they did was they offered Zlatan a 2-year contract at $1.5 million per year, which is the max you can use to buy down a salary with targeted allocation money. With that, that put him below the threshold, and LA Galaxy was able to keep not only their 3 designated players on their roster, but also bring in Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And the rest is history. Additional mechanisms which we focus on with our clients include things like adding, dropping players, loans and 2-way contracts with the USL, and you can also see this when players are drafted and sent down to the USL for development, things like season-ending injury protocols, compliance with MLS rosters and salaries, and also budget slots. And this could be budget max, budget minimums, and reserve roster salaries. And we can take a look, for example, at Michael Bradley, who earned the most money in 2018 under contract, which was $6.5 million. Regarding minimum salaries, we can take a look at the first 24 roster spots on an MLS club must be paid minimum $70,000. Additionally, we'll talk about things and look at areas like reserve roster spots as well. And you might be wondering, as an agent, as a player, as a club, well, how does this affect me and my bottom line? Well, that's exactly what we're also going to look at. For example, the player transfer rules. How does it differ from your region? Or also, how is my commission affected? Am I paid on a net level? Am I paid on a gross level? And including, this could be taxes. So how am I taxed? How is my player taxed? Is he taxed just in that state? Is he taxed across other states? These are all areas which we'll look at that'll personally affect you and your player. In short, the US is a large country with a lot of regions and a lot of rules in Major League Soccer and USL. It can be incredibly complex, and this is exactly why we're here, to help you better understand that and to better negotiate on behalf of your player. If you aren't already familiar with us, we are XERIC Sports Management. We are primarily a soccer-focused agency and player representation with partner agencies all around the globe, but we also have focuses on consulting, digital, analytics, and event management. We work with clients in many countries everywhere, and this includes on consulting basis and fee-sharing arrangements as well. We're excited to work with you. Below, you will see my email address, and additionally, we encourage you to check out our Facebook page and our Twitter page. And if you have any questions, please let us know. We look forward to getting in touch with you and working with you as a potential partner. Thank you. And that's a wrap.